Back in 2019, before I was ever an influencer, I became one of 30 faces of New York City Pride. My name's Blair Amani. I'm the creator of Smarter in Seconds. I'm a Black woman of mixed heritage. I'm bisexual. I'm Muslim. I came out in 2017 on Fox News, which was a mistake and a whole other story. But in 2019, I was featured as part of World Pride. I was featured for New York City Pride and the 50th commemoration of the Stonewall Uprising. And this was such an incredible honor to me. But I also felt a little bit taken advantage of. And this is no shade to the agency that created the campaign, to the other people who participated alongside me. But I think it's an important discussion to have. So first of all, I had an amazing experience on set. I had an amazing experience meeting with other people who were part of the campaign too. And I love the pictures that came out of it. I still love those. Those are, Mamadi Doumbaya did the photos. And it was just an incredible feeling. It was at this warehouse in Brooklyn. And I just remember that day like it was yesterday. And then I started to see these images show up on banners with corporate logos. And I started to see my image being used on t-shirts that were being sold for like $50. And I started really thinking about how much I was struggling at that time back in 2019, where I was completely freelance. I wasn't influencing. I was doing public speaking. I was writing books. I was struggling in New York City. And I started to think about how I didn't get paid for that shoot. And I really didn't know, even to this day, how much of my image I signed away, to the point where my image was being used next to all these corporate sponsors that I'm sure gave, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but that wasn't being seen by me or any other people who modeled for the campaign. And then on the other hand, I felt really proud to provide hijab representation, Black representation, Muslim representation, queer representation. And I felt very honored to be part of the community. And I didn't want to be ungrateful, but I was also struggling while I was literally seeing my face being used to sell things that I didn't agree with. On the one hand, I felt like I was part of history, and on the other hand, I was broke. And then there was the fact that it just increased my visibility in a way that I didn't have time to reflect on beforehand. So I'm like on the subway, seeing a picture of me on the subway for New York City Pride as a queer Muslim with the hijab on, chilling, and then people are seeing me. It just put a spotlight on me in a way that I wasn't prepared for. So that was something else to think about, was how representation, visibility, and exposure don't always equal safety. And that was a lot. And today I was writing a reflection about how Pride has become this corporatized entity. And then I started to write about this experience I had in 2019 with New York City Pride. And I took that out of the Patreon post because I was like, this would make a good story time, because it taught me so much about my personal image, the cost of representation, the cost of visibility, the cost of exposure, alienation within our communities, coming out, and all of that multi-level complexity that are not often discussed when it comes to talking about Pride Month. At the same time, I'm so grateful I had this experience back in 2019, becoming an influencer in 2020, because it made me think twice. How is my image being used? How are the communities and identities that I have and represent being used to sell something that I might not agree with? Like, I want to make sure that if my face is being used next to something, it's something that I actually stand for, that I actually represent. And I kind of signed that away on the dotted line because I was so hype about an opportunity that ended up being amazing, and that I was so grateful that I actually did. But I'm glad that I was able kind of to stumble through that in a way that a lot of public figures, influencers, actors, etc. aren't able to do because of public scrutiny. I ended up raising a little bit of a fuss online, back when Twitter was Twitter, about how the people who participated in this campaign were not paid. Our faces are being used on booths, on banners, t-shirts are being sold with our faces on it. And I think a lot of folks ended up getting compensated. I know that I did. I know that other folks did. I don't want to put their business out there. And so I was able to kind of move forward through it. But one of the ways that they were trying to apologize to me, New York City Pride, was to put me on one of their parade floats. And I ended up saying no, because at this point I had seen how even within the community we can participate in rainbow washing, which is when corporations and companies lie about their support of the LGBTQ plus community to sell products and to sell merchandise. And I got to see firsthand what it looks like for our community to be exploited under the sake of exposure and representation. And obviously I know that the visibility I gained from being part of that campaign was very beneficial to me, but I also think it wasn't done in the most ethical way. And I think that really matters, because when you're part of a marginalized community, you're facing oppression, you're going through all of these things, you have the oftentimes economic consequences of being oppressed, and that has to be honored even as we lift people up. So when I make my series Smarter in Seconds, I make sure to pay everyone who is featured in the video because I want them to be compensated. I don't want to be doing the same type of exposure-based capitalism that happened to me back in 2019. And this is not at all like it was the worst thing in the world, or I'm judging you for going to New York City Pride, or I want them to be canceled. I'm just saying that it's an important discussion to have, and I was reflecting on it today, and I wanted to talk about it because I think that Pride for the past few decades has become something that would be unrecognizable to the people who helped originate it. People like Sylvia Rivera, Marsha P. Johnson, Miss Major. And I want to make sure that for this Pride, I talked about those things, made those reflections. And again, no shade at all to the incredible people that made this campaign possible, who participated in it with me. It was back in 2019. I was just thinking about it today. It was just a really interesting experience for me. On the one hand, I felt such a part of the community in a way that I never thought I would. And at the other time, I was also feeling really taken advantage of. And I don't want anyone else to feel that way when it comes to celebrating Pride Month, living your life, or just trying to speak your truth into a world that wants to silence us.